All right, I'm gonna call this meeting to order. If everyone will please rise for our pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. It's good to see everybody's faces here. I think this might be, I'm trying to remember the last one we had everybody here, but thanks everybody for being here at 6. Going down our agenda, do we have any additions or deletions to our agenda?
Yes, we do. We would like to move item, well, hang on, my page just got out of order, 6.1 to 7.1 and vice versa, so that we'll handle the discussion about the Plan A reentry for 6/12 first. And I did talk to the attorneys to make sure that that was okay, and it is.
I need a motion to approve as amended.
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Haven't been able to say that in a while either.
Without being taken a roll.
Yep. No matters of the public, no superintendent's report. Consent agenda. Everybody's had a chance to look at the 4.1 handout. If there's no discussion, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion. Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. All right. So now we're gonna do 6.1, which is now our discuss and approve the reentry plan. Ms. Jackson.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everybody. As you know, Governor Cooper signed Senate Bill 220 into law on March the 11th, and local boards of education are now required to provide in-person learning for grades K-5 in Plan A and for grades 6-12 in either Plan A or Plan B. So basically that says we're meeting that requirement. We could stay just like we are. Or we could increase the number of days for 6-12 and go to Plan A. I had meetings with all the principals last week, as well as I had some individual conversations with you guys to talk about that. And I will just tell you that based on all of that and what we all feel like is best for the students in Pamlico County Schools, and I know you'll have questions, but it is my recommendation that we move to Plan A for grades 6 through 12 for 4 days a week, where they will come Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, just like our K-5 do currently. And the reason why we need to leave Wednesdays is that, currently our students do not leave the classroom hardly at all. And I do have one of my K-5 principals here, and I have one of my 6-12 principals here. But we still need that day for deep cleaning, and we still need that day so that teachers can plan, because a lot of our teachers teach both virtual and face-to-face. And, excuse me, and therefore, that's the only day that they really have to plan these lessons. They plan together, they have some time to plan alone. And again, talking with our maintenance director, he said they can absolutely still get, they're working still at night, and they'll still need, to get some deep cleaning done. Even though the groups aren't changing, we still need to do the cleaning. Our numbers, if you're watching the tracking chart, have gone down drastically. We only have one positive case of COVID, teachers or staff or students right now in the whole district as of 2 o'clock today, which is amazing. And I think maybe only 4 or 5 quarantined. I actually have a copy of it here. But like I said, the other day, Tiffany updates that every day, typically around 4 o'clock. We did it a little earlier today. But, we've had a lot of people say, well, if it's going that well, then let's just leave it. I just don't see that we cannot bring our kids back and have more face-to-face instruction with how well things are going right now. Like I said, I met with the maintenance director. I also met with Lindsay of transportation, and that was a concern. But she can absolutely get all the kids on the buses. There's one bus she's a little concerned with the number, so we're going to look at that. We hope we don't have to divide any buses, because then that's going to mean another driver, because we're really short, as you know. But I'm here to answer any questions. Like I said, I have one 612 and one K5 principal if you have any questions about any of that. But I really think that for the morale of our teachers right now and the things that I mentioned earlier, I really think we need to keep our Wednesdays as remote. And I feel very strongly about that. And I know we talked about that, you know, when I had some conversations with you this week. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions or hear any comments.
Ms. Jackson,
Yes, ma'am.
what date are you thinking?
Thank you. That's a big one. We're looking at April the 12th, which is the day we come back from Easter break, as having our day that then everyone will be back in Plan A 4 days a week. And one of the reasons for putting it off, there's several reasons. One, it gives us time to get the bus route straight. It gives our high school students that are now working on some of those days that they were not in school to get their schedule straight. And then most importantly, our teachers will have their second vaccination on April the 1st, which means that'll be day 12, and we feel confident getting them back in on April the 12th. And I think has a lot to do with why our numbers are going down too, because we have had a first vaccination. We have about 43% of our teachers that we know of that have been vaccinated with the first vaccination. Some have their second one. And that's how it is in every district. They're around 40%, from what I'm being told. Now, some may have chosen to do it on their own, and I wouldn't necessarily know about that unless they chose to tell us. So April the 12th. Thank you.
I'm excited.
Oh, I'm ready to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ms. Jackson, I have one other question.
Yes, ma'am.
So the students who are virtual now, will they have the option of coming back? And have you heard from many of them? Will they choose to?
What we're expecting is that we will have potentially the opposite. That we'll have some that may feel like this is a little too close, because while all the rules in Plan B apply in Plan A, except for the social distancing. And we will do the best we can at all times to social distance as much as possible. But with a full class, it's going to be a little less possible for that to happen. So we do think that that could happen, and we will, and that is one of the things the governor said that we have to allow. We are not going to publicly open it up if you want your child to come back, because that is going to cause us a problem. I'm going to be honest, because then we're going to have our numbers are going to be much, much larger. But we're going to take it on an individual case-by-case basis, and that's what I told the principals.
What about the example of a child that's a high school kid that's failing? Would that be a consideration on whether you let them come back?
Oh, yeah, if they choose to come back, and we're actually, Mr. Rice might even want to talk about that, but we have heavily encouraged some to come back even when it normally wasn't a time that you should be able to come back, because we knew it might be the only way they were going to be able to pass, and we have had some. But yes, if someone's failing, we would absolutely, work with them. And I think we're doing that anyway, right, Mr. Rice?
We've got quite a few that are going 4 days a week now. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but just about anybody that's asked if we had room in the class, we allow them to come back.
And that's middle school as well.
Any other questions?
No, I'm good. I'm ready.
If there's no other questions or discussions, then we can entertain a motion to approve the proposal for Plan A reentry.
Motion.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, raise your right hand. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, what we're here for is the budget time. Mr. Curtis.
You could stay right there if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
If you want to stay there,
'Cause he's
Steve,
got a
you can pass the
microphone.
stuff out, you can stay right there, that's fine.
And with that, Mr. Rice is going to the football game, since we have a game going on now tonight. Thank you, Mr. Rice.
And a softball game.
And a away softball game. I'm sorry.
John, is she pitching today?
Thank you.
I'm
And
not
I actually
sure yet.
already,
Okay.
I made a notebook.
If you see me doing this, I'm paying attention, but I'm keeping up with my daughter's ball game, so I'm not being rude.
He's used to it. I do stuff like that all the time.
Okay, it seems like these budget sessions come faster and faster every year. So what we'll do is we'll start off on the summary of funding request. Figured I'd go ahead and just let you know right off the bat what this first draft, and of course, these are all subject to change. We've got a couple more meetings scheduled. But on that first page, you've
Mr.
got
Curtis,
the,
could you speak into the microphone? Pull it a little closer. They can't hear you very well. Sorry,
okay.
sorry. He's
Is that
shy.
better? That better?
Thank you.
Okay, for this year, our funding from the county, $3,458,425 for Pamlico County Schools, and for the charter school, $541,575 for a total local current expense funding of $4 million. This year in capital outlay, we received $375,000 for a total of $4,375,000. The proposed budget for next year, with this first draft, is for Pamlico County Schools in current expense, $3,562,178, and for the charter school, $557,822, for a total of $4,120,000. This is an increase of $120,000 or 3% increase over this year's funding. In capital outlay, the amount is $574,780. And again, this is an increase of almost $200,000 over this year. So total funding request so far is $4,694,780, an increase of almost $320,000. Okay, so let's go ahead and just talk about capital a little bit. I think that's your next section. And a couple things I just want to mention with regards to the capital outlay budget. I'm still talking with principals and directors with regards to capital outlay items. This is the first of 3 budget meetings. The second one will be on April 12th, and that'll be before the regular Board of Ed meeting. And then the third and final meeting will be on April 26th. So still having conversations with them, so there could be some changes in these numbers. Some of the projects and the items that were budgeted for this year, we had to put them on hold, mainly due to COVID, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But we still have some projects that we're working on and hope to have finalized prior to June 30th, so we can get those expenses in this fiscal year, okay? Okay, so on that first page of capital outlay, this is buildings and grounds. The first section is maintenance. This is kind of standard stuff, trying to keep the ditches cleaned out, money for that, site improvements to grounds, rocks for parking lots, fences, fence repair, items such as that, and then gutters and downspout replacement at the schools. And there's always that going on that we have to address and try to get taken care of. Under transportation, you'll see that for this year, we had $20,000 budgeted to close in a lean-to area on back of the building. We hesitated on doing that to begin with just because of COVID and everything going on. And after speaking with Lindsay Willis and the 2 mechanics, they basically said it'd be nice to have, but it's not a necessity, and were certainly fine without having that done. So I am not putting that in the budget for next year. I feel like we could use those funds for other more important items. Okay, at the primary school, there were 2 items that we had in this year's budget, basically painting and some new carpet in the classrooms. Although we haven't done that yet, we hope to have that done by June 30th. So I've estimated expenditures there and put nothing in for next year. At Fred Anderson, replace the carpet with tile in the gym building. When you walk in that gym building, of course, the gym's to your left, that hallway area, that one music classroom and all the technology offices are carpet, and it is just filthy. I don't think it's ever been changed. We did have it professionally cleaned about a month ago, but the ideal situation there would be just pull that carpet up and put down tile. That is not an asbestos situation, so it wouldn't be too terribly expensive to do that. And that would make it a whole lot cleaner, and just it'll be a little more carpet we can get out of the buildings. So I've estimated $5,000 for that. Paint bathrooms in areas where paint is peeling. Again, this is an item that we're hoping to work on probably some over spring break, and then once school gets out in June, try to knock those items out prior to June 30th. Okay, on the next page, the middle school, we actually had budgeted this year to paint the gym building. Just due to COVID and other reasons, we did not try to tackle that, but I would still like to get that done. So I have put that in for next year's budget at $23,000. And then the softball and the baseball field scoreboards both need new scoreboards. They've had problems with those, and sometimes it'll work and sometimes it won't, and it's just kind of the nature of the beast. So we would like to replace both of those scoreboards. At the high school, the first two items, new carpet and tile in multiple areas of the high school. We took care of that last summer before school started. Mr. Rice still has some classrooms that need to be painted, especially on the English hall, and we're going to try to knock those out prior to June 30th. A couple of new items is paint the gym walls in the gym, an estimated cost of $28,000 to have that done. Replace the roof over the PE and locker room area. That is the flat section of that school roof, the only remaining flat section, and we've tried everything. We just can't get it to stop. So we think just taking that entire single ply rubber roofing off and totally replace it will be the best solution to do. That's a budgeting estimate from True Coat. I think the estimate was 48 to 60,000 area. But anyway, that's something that we would really like to try to see happen in the next fiscal year. And then also the softball field scoreboard at the high school also needs to be replaced. I've kidded for years that if you're sitting in the stand, you can't hardly see it. It's so small. And again, issues with things working. All these new scoreboards, these three we're looking at, would come from Time Technologies, which is where we got the new football scoreboard, and the quality of those is so much better than these other scoreboards that we've gotten in the past. So we would definitely like to take a look at that. So that's category 1, buildings and grounds, $145,750. The next page is category 2, furniture and equipment. This is just mainly, I plug in money every year for maintenance, transportation in the schools to be able to purchase equipment, tools, and classroom furniture and equipment. I have $3,000 for maintenance, $2,000 for transportation, and then $2,000 for each school. These aren't large dollar items. We're not trying to replace a media center. It's just if they need new teacher desks or chairs, file cabinets, items like that. That's what we are looking at. Also at the very bottom there, Mr. Rice has gotten a quote from Fuller's for a new sound system for this auditorium. We've already spent some money on just trying to get everything working good here, and I think hopefully it's an improvement. But those speakers have been there for I don't know how long, but they definitely need to be replaced, and that's an item that we want to try to take a look at some point in time in the near future. We're hoping to get this auditorium back to use by the community as a facility use item. Okay, top of the next page, on page 4, technology budget this year was $220,500. The estimate is $425,225, and we'll look at that technology budget in just a minute. And Dr. Johnson is here to answer any questions that y'all may have. So that is category 2 total, $452,030. And then category 3 under vehicles, we budgeted $35,000 this year for a new activity bus, a lease purchase of that. For obvious reasons, we just decided to put that on hold because there just wasn't a whole lot of activity bus use going on. Of course, it's going to pick up now here. But we feel like we need to go ahead and put that back in the budget for next year. I asked Lindsay to put some information together for me. This May will be 22 years that I've been here, and we purchased 3 activity buses, 2006, 2011, 2017. So the average age of those 3 buses is 10 years old. The entire fleet, the average age is 20 years old, with about 120,000 miles, average miles on those buses. So we really need to do this to make sure that we have good, dependable vehicles that we can send our kids out on, and start taking some of these older buses off the road. We've got quite a few now that we typically don't run any further than New Bern, maybe Morehead City, and that's it. We just don't feel like we can send them any further. So those 3 newer buses are really putting a lot of miles on those during the normal year because they're used more than any of the other buses. Okay? So total capital outlay expenditures is $632,780. And if you'll turn over to page 5, this is the revenue. And as you can see there, I've got $58,000 appropriated out of fund balance. And the reason I did that is because we didn't paint the middle school gym for $23,000, and we didn't do the activity bus lease for $35,000. The county commissioners aren't going to fund it a second for 2 years in a row. So we don't spend that money. It'll go into the fund balance as of June 30th, and we turn around and reappropriate it for next year. So that means we would be asking the county commissioners for $574,780, okay? And again, that's about an increase of almost $200,000 over this year's figure of $375. Any questions on any of that before we look at the technology budget? Everything pretty clear as mud? Okay, if you'll flip over to the next section, this is the Exhibit A, the technology budget. And you basically have a one sheet there that has where Dr. Johnson has prioritized the technology needs, and then he has justifications and rationale behind that. One of the things that we really need to do is replace all these old Promethean boards that's been up there for how long, 12 years? About 12 years, and the newer laptops and computers they're not compatible with the newer devices that we are getting. The good news is we only need 27, and I say that because this year's been different. It's been crazy, but we've saved some money because we haven't done professional development as far as going out on the roads to places and paying registration fees and lodging and mileage. The travel has been basically nothing, so we've saved a lot of money there. And Dr. Johnson and I looked at it last week, and we just determined that, I determined I had some money we could spend this year to go ahead and get a head start on some of those active panels. And so we're going to go ahead and place an order for those this year. How many was it? 31 or 32. We're going to go ahead and order, which is about $100,000. So that's $100,000 less we would be asking the county commissioners for. And I think that would make a good statement from us by doing that. They know we're not having to spend as much money this year as we probably have in normal years. We've gotten that COVID money we've been able to use for COVID-related items. So we just felt like that was a good thing to do. Obviously, we're still looking for $90,000 from them to do these remaining 27. But if we can get those, that will take care of all 4 schools. And we will be able to get rid of all of those old Promethean boards and get these new Activision Promethean panels in there. Any questions on that y'all would like to ask Dr. Johnson? The rest of the items are things you pretty much see every year. You know, we're in a replacement schedule for the laptop computers for faculty and staff, for student laptops, and you see the numbers there. Technology infrastructure expenses And Dr. Johnson, I think is that the E-rate related? Can you touch on that for a minute? We are looking at, we're eligible for nearly $200,000 in E-rate funds. And we're looking right now at about $150,000 in purchases. I've got that form that's going out this week, an application for that. What that is, if you're familiar with E-rate, the government basically, federal government will pay 85% of it. And so we've got about $150,000 worth of wireless access points and switches and firewalls that we're looking to get. What that will do is upgrade our wireless system district-wide. And so we want to put a wireless access point in every single classroom. Right now, we are one-to-one in every single classroom in the district. And it's awesome. I mean, the pandemic has been rough, but from a standpoint of really injecting technology and having an opportunity to inject technology, that's great. We went from one-to-one 612 to one-to-one K-12. But when we introduce all of these new devices, we also have to take care of the infrastructure, or it's sort of like having a brand new car, not taking care of the roads. It'll beat the car up over time if the roads are in bad shape. Same thing with this. If we don't replace our current infrastructure, it's going to lag, and they're not going to perform as what we need them to do. So that's the rationale. And so
Dr. Johnson, your mic's not on, so the people on live stream
Okay.
can't hear you.
Now here we go.
Now I got you.
Thank you.
Start over. I'm just kidding.
But the $30,000 we have there is just, that would be our portion. And there may very well be state funds that would take care of that. We wouldn't need that. But Mr. Curtis and I discussed it. We felt it was best to err on the side of caution there and budget it rather than not. And so that's what that $30,000 line item in there, that would represent our portion of the E-rate funds. Looking at anything else there, I'm happy to answer your questions. Like Mr. Curtis said, the laptop devices that you see there, we're trying to really give the faculty and staff something that is a little more robust than what they're using right now, and a little bit bigger than what they're using right now, because remote instruction, it may look different. I certainly hope it does. I want us to get back to normal as quickly as possible, but there's always been an emphasis and a need for technology and the teachers being able to have the tools they need. And so that would be a large portion of this too. So happy to answer any question. I'm sorry I talked that whole time with no mic on. I thought it sounded weird, but I thought, well, I'm not going to. Anyway.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Johnson. So with the capital outlay, then we're looking at right at $575,000 requesting from the county commissioners. Again, this is the first meeting and first draft. Any questions on capital outlay at all? Okay, if not, let's go ahead and look at local current expense. If you'll flip over to the next tab. You've got the page 1 and 2 are the summary pages. The first one is the revenue page, if everybody's got that. Okay, from the Board of Education for the county appropriation, again, this is we're looking at a increase of $103,753. This is the same figure that was on that very first page that we looked at. The charter school, $557,822 for a total of $4,120,000. This is a $120,000 increase over funding for this year. Last year, when we made our presentation to the county commissioners, we asked for a 4.69% increase, right at $183,000. Of course, they didn't give us that. They came down and or gave us a little over $91,000 or a 2.34% increase in the current expense funding. So that 3%, and there's a couple reasons that some of you may be shocked that it's not higher than that. But again, I felt like we've gotten ourselves in a little better position financially with regards to fund balance. And so if you look down a little further down the county appropriation totals there, you see the fines and forfeitures. We've had $40,000 budgeted there for years, but over the past 2 or 3 years, that has started dwindling significantly. I told Mr. Jackson this morning, I said, maybe Chris is doing such a good job as sheriff, maybe there's fewer fines and forfeiture payments coming to us. But right now, this year, we'll get about $20,000. So I felt like I needed to go ahead and decrease that revenue stream from $40,000 down to $20,000. And then that disposition of fixed asset, that's just junk we have that's just too old to use anywhere else, and we'll sell it for $100 or $50, whatever it may be. So that takes $20,000 away from our revenue. This year, looking on further down to the fund balance, this year we had $40,000 appropriated in fund balance. We won't spend that this year. And so I've actually, in this first draft, am recommending to increase that to $80,000. And there's 2 reasons. First, to take care of the $20,000 we're losing in fines and forfeitures. And again, another $20,000 just to show the county commissioners that we're putting something in this instead of, we've had years where we really haven't done any fund balance appropriation, either current expense or capital outlay. And to be honest, there were times we just couldn't do it. Period. But I think our fund balance, especially with current expense right now, is pretty good. It's right about $500,000, which I think that's the highest been in probably 8 or 10 years. So, and I feel like this year when we close things out, it'll go up even more. Okay. So even though the total budget is increasing by $140,000. We're only asking for $120,000 of that from the county commissioners, and then we'll take care of the rest through the fund balance appropriation. And down there on the average daily membership, you see what it is this year. Once we did the 20th day enrollment, we were at 1175. The charter school was at 184. These were lows for both of us. I think their out-of-district students are remaining pretty steady, but the in-district students have been dropping. I think they were about 220 last year. And obviously ours dropped too. Not having a real clue what it's going to be like next year when school starts back, I decided just to leave it alone and leave it the same. And then when we get those new 20th day numbers next fall, then we recalculate it anyway to see what kind of changes we need to make to that. So that's why I just left it alone as it was. Okay, on the next page, on page 2, this is a summary of the expenditures, and it just breaks it down by purpose and function code. You can see the 5,000 series, which are instructional services, total increase of $36,359. And I'll hit on a couple of these in just a minute. System-wide support services, the 6,500s up to 6,900s, a total of increase of 87,194. Small increase in community services to 11,000, and then the appropriation for the charter school is an increase of 16,247, and then the other items there remain the same. All right, so if you look on the next page, on page 3, this is the first page of the line item budget. And the first thing that I wanted to mention to you is that very second line item, which is the local teacher supplement. This year we had $440,000 budgeted, and the supplement this year is 7%. My guess, by the time we make that the second half payment in May, we're gonna end up right about $394,000 is what we're gonna end up paying. And obviously that fluctuates as salaries, you have teachers that leave and come, so that determines, what your total supplement is going to be. Ms. Jackson and I were talking the other day and thought, well, for probably not a whole lot more money, we could potentially up that to 8% if the board was interested in doing that. And it would take $450,000. So just a $10,000 increase in that line item, and we could increase that local teacher supplement from 7 to 8%. So I'm just throwing that out there if that's something that y'all would be interested in looking at. I think Craven's still, they're at 10, right, Ms. Jackson?
I thought they were at 8,
Are they at 8?
and Onslow's at 10.
Onslow's at 10,
Yeah.
that's right.
In Beaufort County's a set amount, but it's a lot lower. So we would put us in a good space with the surrounding counties.
Well, I'd like to do it. I just don't see how we're gonna pay for all this stuff anyway. So, we're not gonna get all this money. But that it's an exercise.
Right,
And I'm sure Steve is already thinking about where he's gonna make cuts.
right.
And he probably knows right off the top of his head right now. I'm not gonna ask him, because this is just the first budget meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
This is the throw-out time.
And also too, obviously the capital outlay is a pretty big number.
I think we can probably, work with the current expense.
Right.
Because of the fund balance appropriation and all that. That capital outlay ain't never gonna go. I mean, you know that.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Historically, we just don't get it. Not to say that we don't need it, but we're not gonna get it. And we don't know what their financial situation this year is. Have they been impacted by COVID and all that?
Right. Yeah, you're right, that's correct. But I applaud the board for the efforts that they've made on the local teacher supplement over the years. I mean,
And we've not touched that really in what, 2 years? 2 or 3 years.
right,
Because we worked real hard to get it up.
yeah. Well, when we went from the flat amount to the 7%, that was huge. I mean, that was a big increase that
We
we,
initially went to 5 or 6 and then jumped
No.
to 7.
No,
we
we
did
had
it.
a flat
I
amount,
can't
but then we
remember.
did a tiered.
Right.
We did a
that's
tiered
right, we
system.
did it
Did it
tiered,
tiered.
that's
Then the
right,
tiered system to the
Yeah,
flat
right,
amount.
right.
I mean, to the percentage, excuse me.
right. So anyway, if that's something that the board's interested in, I mean,
I'm
that's
interested in it, but
Yeah.
I just don't know until I see
how everything falls
how
out.
everything's
To me, it'd be a
gonna fall
great
out.
way to spend that amount. I mean, it's not a whole lot of money because of what he budgeted this year. It's a good way, I think, to spend $10,000.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
of
definitely
the
support it.
difference.
I wish there
If
was
we-
a way, if we add the 1% to this year as a COVID bonus for what the teachers have had to go through this year. If there's some way we could increase it this year, I'm for that. I don't know how the other feels, but yeah, definitely, we can always ask to up it to 8% for next year.
Okay. Okay,
I
the,
hate to be adding to that when I know we're gonna have to cut some other stuff, it's just.
Yeah.
well, and again, I hope with it being two different pots of money, I hope with the current expense that, obviously 3% is not a large increase request, and we don't know what we'll get. We got about 2.53 last year, but on the average over the past 5 or 6 years, it's been right around 3%. That we've received from them. But again, we don't know their financial situation and how COVID has impacted them either. So we'll just have to wait and see on that. But I think if we can bump it up from 7 to 8, and it only costs us $10,000, I think that's a pretty good deal.
And that's how much it will cost us?
Increase in the
year,
budget amount, yeah. I mean, it's gonna be a whole lot more than that, but
That's the difference.
the
in-
440 for this year was high. So that's why it's
So-
not,
So on that with this year, we budgeted 440, right?
right,
I think we're gonna spend 393,750.
right.
That's a difference of 46,250. Am I right?
If you say so.
I will.
But we
Math
don't wanna
teacher.
think about bumping it this year when we don't know if we're gonna be able to bump it next year. We don't give 8 this year and then have to drop back to 7 next year because of cuts. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, but if we're gonna be under budget 46,250 this year, tell me if my math's wrong, if we upped it to 8 this year, then that drops it to 36,250. If we up it to 8 next year, that still leaves 26,250 from what we had budgeted
John,
this
you're
year.
the mathematician, you got that
You mean
down.
for like after this year is what you're
Yeah,
saying? Yeah.
yeah. I'm just throwing that out there.
Something to think about.
Yeah, well, and like you said, first draft.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, I'm not gonna go through this thing page by page.
Please
And
don't.
obviously, if
No.
you,
I've already been through
if
it
you
all.
want me to, Mr. Delamar, I
No,
will.
I've actually been ahead of you. I'm on page 11 right now.
I have no doubt.
I'm already going through it and looked at everything.
But there's nothing shattering or gonna blow your mind. It's pretty standard stuff. I based it on an estimated average teacher increase of 4%. I based it on an average non-certified increase of 1.5, which will probably never happen. Increased in the retirement rate and hospitalization. The retirement rate this year is 21.68%, which is just crazy.
I was just getting ready to ask that question. What is it?
Yeah, so I'm figuring about 22.5, plus the 6% that the employee puts in. So it's almost 30 cents on the dollar, every dollar that's going into the retirement system.
What about the hospitalization?
Right now, this year is 6,326, and I'm guessing about 6,500 per employee. So it's a huge, those benefits really add up. I think the last time we checked that, it was a beginning teacher at 35,000, their total pack was about 51,000, including the benefits, Social Security, retirement, and hospitalization. Okay, I did want to show you one thing, so if you will, I'm gonna let y'all skip on over.
What page?
All the way to page 23.
You like that, don't you?
I can go back. Now I can go back.
I think you missed a page or two.
Okay, on page 23, this is the policy, leadership, and public relations part of the purpose function codes, basically the Board of Education. This is where your monthly stipends are paid out of, and that's the very first line item. And as of right now, the chairman receives $250 a month, and the rest of the board members receive $215 a month. There's been some discussion about possibly upping that. Again, speaking with Ms. Jackson, we decided to go ahead and just throw a number out there and just see what y'all had to say about it. This year, this year it's $18,480 is what it's going to cost us, and the estimated figure for next year is $24,000. That is for $500 a month for the chair and $250 for the rest of the board members.
What's the board members getting now?
$215.
$215.
And I will add that neither of those figures are anywhere near enough for what
No.
you guys have to put up with
Well,
monthly, but
I would leave the board members like they are and increase John to 600, because I know how much time he spends, even listening to me and a few more board members, not only when Lisa hits him up. And Richard Swartz and all these people. I know he's taking a lot of time, and he's taking a lot of time away from work to do this stuff. So I would put him at 600 and leave the rest of us like we are. That's just my thought.
I'm gonna be quiet.
That,
I know I don't get to vote. I don't think 250 is even close to enough, and I wish you would let us increase the rest of the board. I'm good with that. Actually, I bother him way more than 600 a month, I can tell you that. I'm fine with moving his, but I really wish you would let us move the board as well.
that's cheap for the best board chairman we've ever had in Pamlico County.
Well, it's very cheap for you guys too. Think about all the
Yeah.
meetings we've had lately. We've had a lot of, it's not just I think we told Ms. Dunbar, oh, it's just once a month. That's all you have to do. And already it's been more than that. This is first round. Can we just leave it in for first round and see what happens?
But I'm still, that 600
Okay.
seems more appropriate. He's probably still be the lowest paid chairman in the state,
It's low. It's low. Y'all were low too, though.
right, Steve?
Well, maybe not the lowest, but it's,
Near the
there's some,
bottom.
there's some
There's-
big,
there's
some
one-
big,
There's one
stipends
that's
out there
lower,
for
but
board members.
everybody else is higher.
I just want to pay him for his time.
Yeah.
Which we're not paying him for.
And if you did go from 5 to 600, that's just gonna increase that 24,000 by $1,200. So it'd be 25.2. So if it's okay with the board, I'll plug that in, the rest of the board members at 250, and then we can talk about it at the next meeting if you want to have some further conversation about it, if that's okay.
Please, thank you.
Okay? I tell you, the rest of the stuff is just standard stuff. I tried to cut back a little bit where I could to keep it as low as possible, while at the same time making sure that we'll be covered with any increases that the state may, give us next year. So that's really all I've got. Again, I feel like a 3% increase in current expense is obviously not outrageous at all, and we're going to show that we're going to put forth some effort ourselves and use some of the fund balance. And I don't want to deplete it by any means. Have no intentions of doing that. But I know that the 40,000 that's budgeted this year for fund balance, we won't spend that. I know it. And so that's, and if we end up appropriating 80 for next year, it's the same thing as spending 40 of it this year and spending 40 of it next year. So it's really not a whole lot of difference. And then we're going to increase the fund balance at June 30th when the books are done for this, when this fiscal year is over.
The only thing I'd ask you to do between now and the meeting, on what date was it?
April 12th.
12th. Did you start making a list of prioritizing where you would make cuts when we have to make those cuts? Because you know we're going to have to.
Right.
I mean,
But can't we ask for what we need? And then if we have to cut, then we will. But I think we need to ask for what we need. We always go in asking for a lot less than what we need. Because we feel like, well, we're not gonna get it. But we've always done since I've been superintendent. We spend a lot of time cutting. But if we need it, let's ask for it. I'm not saying we can't tweak some of this,
Yeah,
but
I mean.
I just think we need to ask, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, last year when we went to them, especially in capital, we asked for $417,000, which is probably the most we'd asked for in a long, long time. They did increase it from 330,000 to 375, and that 375 is the most we've received in, I think, 12 years from them. I never thought we'd have got that, so I was pleasantly surprised with that. So,
Yeah, I was gonna
What
add
did
it.
they give us in current expense increase last year?
2.34%, a little over about $92,000. And we're asking for 120 right now.
I don't
That's
think
not
they'll have
much.
a problem
That's
with
not
current
much.
expense.
I don't think they will either.
The problem will come with capital.
Yeah.
And, they're only gonna give us so much. Everybody wants their budget increased.
Well, the biggest item is technology.
Yes.
But if there's ever been a year that shows how important
Amen.
it is, it's been
I don't think-
since March.
But I don't think everyone understands.
I agree, but
People just don't understand what's
But I-
been going on.
I think there's,
And if we hadn't had as good an infrastructure as we have, we would not have survived. Of course, you got some special funding in there for computers and everything that allowed us to survive.
That's right.
well, I think, I could be wrong, but I don't think virtual learning is going away for quite some time.
Well, I think,
And-
I have real reservations about virtual learning. It does not compare with in-face learning, talking student and a teacher interacting, and students interacting with other students. Now, some of that goes on those Zoom meetings and all that, but that's just a small portion of the school day. And I don't think it's going away,
Yeah,
but I think there are people taking advantage of it and using it for shortcuts, students in particular.
Oh,
And they're not
absolutely.
doing their work, and our failure rate's gonna go up because of virtual learning. Now, they'll probably dispute me out there in the audience, principals, but it's just what I believe. And I have not seen anything that tells me that's true. I just think that's what's gonna happen. Henry can't respond at the high school, and I think you're gonna see it happen more at middle school and high school than you are at the elementary. But I think you're gonna see, I'm just wondering, all those kids that fail courses this year, are they gonna be willing to come back and take those courses over again next year? The last thing we need to do is to water down the virtual. We need to maintain our standards at the same level if they were face-to-face. Last spring, we set a bad precedent, the state did.
I was gonna say, we didn't do that.
Did, yeah.
That's right.
No, you didn't do it. The
Right.
state said held everybody harmless. They're not doing that this year, which would lead me to believe that the failure rate's gone up. And I haven't seen anything, because nobody's given me anything Henry could probably answer that. But I'm just not a big fan of virtual learning. I mean, I've observed it. I've observed it right in my own household with crappy internet connections and all that kind of thing, and kids not participating, kid hanging from a top bunk upside down while he's trying to do virtual learning. I've seen that. And I just can't believe that the same discipline is there with virtual learning that we get with face-to-face instruction. I don't even like it for college. I think the college kids are getting shortchanged on it. But here again, I'm old school, I'm old-fashioned. I just think there's a great value to a teacher and a student interacting face-to-face, and those students interacting with other students.
I agree.
Well,
Oh, yeah, I agree too.
and I'd like to say that you're right. You're absolutely right in a lot of what you said. Unfortunately, we didn't have a choice.
No, there was no
Yeah.
choice. I'm
Right.
not-
And
I'm not
nobody
saying we
did.
did anything wrong.
Right, and
We
I
did.
think under the circumstances, especially in K-5, where they have the particular teachers, well, really, I think all of our teachers are doing a great job that are doing virtual. It's not for all the students, it's not. I think that there will be some students that will continue, we'll have to provide it. We're looking at how we'll screen them beyond this year, if we can get somewhat back to normal, how we'll screen them moving forward. Because basically, this year, they just said they wanted virtual, we had to give them virtual. Because it was for health reasons. And,
See, I think the state ought to be appropriating extra money for virtual education if this is what they want.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's placing a tremendous burden on teachers,
Oh, yeah.
as well as it's
Oh,
just not
absolutely.
satisfactory for so many kids.
well, and if you want, in April, I can give you some exact numbers. There was a study that was just done, and we had to turn in information for middle and high, on what well, actually, all the grades, what our failure rate was, and it was looked at across the state. And it was, and I don't remember the exact percentage, and I know Mr. Sproul and Mr. Rice are not here, but Dr. Johnson was there at the time, and their numbers were very, very close, percentage-wise. Do you want to speak to that?
About 23%. 23% of students at the middle school failed at least one class during the second quarter. High school was within a percentage point of that.
Okay, but what is the normal failure rate when we're not, quote,
Yeah, that's
virtual?
not-
I'll put it this way, we ran the numbers early in the fall, or about mid-fall. We had 106 students that had a failing grade at one point, compared to 6 prior to. I mean, it's exponential.
Of course.
Well, that tells it all, people. That
Yeah.
just
Oh, yeah.
tells it all.
That's right.
We did it because we had to.
That's right.
But when we don't have to do it, we need to discourage this.
And
We
it's
need
being
the kids to
discouraged right
come to
now.
school.
Principals have come to me multiple times, when we have cut the deadline off, can we please get this kid back in school if the parents are willing? And, I mean, and Ms. Dixon, I know she's done the same thing, and Ms. Metter, when she was at Fred Anderson, where they would tell parents, your child is probably gonna repeat their grade if they don't come back face-to-face, and they would get them back. So they've gone over and beyond, and it meant, another kid in that classroom, but it was what we had to do. And
Well, and I'm
it
not
will be-
questioning why we did
it
it this
will
year,
be
but I don't want to
dis-
perpetuate it if we don't have to. It's
well,
gonna
we
always
won't.
be
If we don't
some
have
of
to, we
it,
won't.
but we need to minimize it
We will.
as much as possible.
We will.
Jeremy, how many kids, did you ever do the thing with Camp Don Lee for middle
Didn't get
school?
them to commit, honestly. We, very few, we sent out letters of, invitation letters, and very few, expressed interest. And that was about the time I transitioned.
Right, right.
Out, but, I think there could very well have been some, I'm not sure what the final.
The idea there was to prioritize those kids who were not doing what they were supposed to do. And Perry Griffin Foundation had given a small grant to take care of some of the costs. They've not even used more than 10% of that grant that I gave them, because the kids did not take advantage of the opportunities, even though they were asked to participate.
Well, I will tell you, I know personally, and I hope that they're listening to this right now, some students that we had issues, we felt like that the student was going to struggle if they didn't come more often. And I went to Dr. Johnson and said, can we get this kid in 4 days? Because she's home alone these other 2 days, and she did it for a little while, and then she didn't like it, so she stopped coming. I mean, now she's gonna have to, but because
courts
the
in
others
Craven
didn't, she didn't
County-
want to.
The courts in Craven County are seeing parent after parent whose kids aren't participating in anything. And on one Friday afternoon, there was as many as 50 parents brought before the courts because the kids were not signing on, they were not going to school, they weren't doing anything.
What's the dropout rate look like, or do we not, I mean, Mr. Rice is
I
not
mean,
here,
our
so-
graduation rate is great, so, yeah, but it's, I don't know specifically right now for this year, so.
I just-
Anyway, I've said my spiel about
We got
virtual
off track a little bit.
education. That's all I got to say.
Oh, I agree, but I think it's gonna be, it's not gonna go away as fast as we'd like it to, probably.
Well, I don't think it's gonna go away, but
Yeah.
I think we need to make sure that it's absolutely rigorous enough
Right,
that these kids are challenged and they're gonna want to come to school rather than hang upside down from the top bunk and do class. I've seen that, people. I've
But
seen
what
it.
you're seeing is that one remote day, right?
Yeah,
That's not the kids that are virtual every single day.
I know, I
That's the
know.
one remote, and
I
it is
know
hard
they're
for them
not.
one day
Yeah.
a week, I
But-
think, to
but-
then
but
do that.
I
Because
think
I
they're-
think, I've been in those, we actually took our visitors into the virtual classes that came a couple weeks ago, and it was some good stuff.
But when Jeremy tells me the number of failures that you got, it gives you real concern. That's just, I don't know.
And we're in a pandemic. And if
Yeah.
you're gonna say something, talk loud, because the public is saying they can't hear you.
All I wanted to say was, bringing it kind of back around to the budget, the computers that we have on there were not to perpetuate virtual learning, it was to replace computers.
I know, I know.
Yeah.
Technology
I know
is a
that.
core
Ongoing.
piece of what we do anyway, whether we're here or there, so just wanted to make sure you understood that.
what kind of attrition rate are we seeing with the laptops now, because they're,
They're getting beat up.
yeah,
Of course, yeah.
They're getting beat up. They've held up remarkably well, but, there's a big percentage of the computers, they're about 5 years old, they were set to be retired anyway. And
Right.
So that's what was reflected in the proposal. It wasn't, just more, it was
More.
a replacement. But, yeah, the ones we have, some of them, students are careful and some of them are very careless. So, it's,
but some of them are 5 years old and
That's
they're,
right.
5 years old.
And they're slow.
Failing naturally.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's just a matter of time anyway.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
Is that it, Steve?
Yeah, that's all I have. If y'all have any questions or anything, you can certainly call me or email me, and then we'll just continue this conversation on the 12th with the next budget meeting.
I did have another capital outlay question.
Okay?
How many times have we had to repair that roof? And I'm curious, how much have we spent? Because we probably spent close to enough in repairs
Oh,
to have replaced it. And I think that definitely needs to stay on there, because
absolutely.
it's bad.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
noticed you don't have any polls on the, in the budget.
No.
Baseball poles.
I've been
No,
working with
hadn't put
this-
any polls on there.
I've been working with this stuff for 50 years, and there's always been poles in the.
There's always a pole.
Replace the poles on the fields.
I agree, John.
Polls kind
Yeah,
of put
I
a sour taste in my
I agree with that.
The only point I'm trying to make is if we show the commissioners, look, we have spent this much money over this much amount of time, it could have paid for a new roof, and y'all would be money ahead if you'd appropriated it several years ago.
Yeah, and we have. We spent an awful lot of money on that roof over the years, and it's just, it's kind of a
It's a
Band-Aid.
never-ending leak.
Yeah, and it's just never ending.
true.
You think you got it stopped in one area, and
Yeah.
it stops, and then it starts again in the locker room or in the concession area. So it's, yeah, it's been ongoing for a long time. Now, I can add some polls if you want me to.
Please.
No, that's all right. We got scoreboards on there this
That's
time.
right.
That's right,
Few
that's
items.
right.
Scoreboards have replaced John's telling me about woodpeckers. Poles. He says the woodpeckers get the poles, so.
We'll go to metal
Not the
ones,
concrete poles. These are concrete.
or the concrete, yeah.
That's right.
That's right, we're gonna be modern.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Let's see. We've got a motion on here, but I don't think we need a motion.
Yeah, I don't,
Because we're not just, yeah, so we can just scratch that. This was just for information tonight. And, so at our Monday, April 12th meeting, we'll go into our next session. So by all means, if you've got questions or comments, or you come across something when everybody goes home and reviews this, you can,
Oh, you want us to take it home?
yeah, there'll be an online test tomorrow night for virtual learning.
Virtual learning, yeah, but do I have to Zoom,
Yeah.
or am I gonna do Google
Actually,
Classroom?
do you take these up, Steve? Do you take these up?
it doesn't matter. I mean,
Okay.
if they want to leave it here, that's fine. If they want to take it, that's
I'm
fine.
gonna leave mine, cause I've memorized it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
All right, so our next meeting, budget and our regular board meeting, is April 12th. So just remember, if you look at the time, it's 5 o'clock. And I'm sure that'll take place in here. And,
To be announced.
yeah, to be announced, but just make sure the time is 5, so,
Instead of 6.
And we'll let you know, but we'll try to have some food in between the two meetings so that, because some people are probably coming straight from work.
all right, if there's nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion and second, all in favor, raise your right hand. All right, we are adjourned.